Sentire Media.
Welcome to the Stop Italian Sounding podcast, uncovering authentic Italian food. I'm your host, Robert Campana, and join me as we delve into the rich heritage of genuine Italian food, exploring its legends, history, and traditions. Through important tips and insightful interviews with industry professionals, you'll gain a deeper understanding of authentic Italian food. Welcome back, everyone, to the Stop Italian Sounding show, uncovering authentic Italian food. So, today, I want to talk about a product that so many people are probably familiar with, use in so many different recipes, and love, but probably actually haven't even tasted it. What? How is that even possible? That makes no sense. You're probably saying to yourself right now, thinking I'm crazy. Well, first of all, I'm referring to ricotta. So, it's a common misconception that ricotta is a cheese when in fact it's a little different than a cheese. First of all, let me start by saying that I am referring to the traditional Italian ricotta. Let me explain. First, let's start with the definition of cheese. This definition comes directly from the Merriam-Webster dictionary. So, a cheese is, quote, a food consisting of the coagulated, compressed, and usually ripened curd of milk separated from the whey, unquote. So, what does that specifically even mean? Well, coagulating the milk means causing the liquid milk to thicken and form curds, or little solid parts, by transforming its protein from a liquid state to a solid state. And this process typically involves adding a coagulant, such as rennet, for example, or an acid, which causes the proteins to bond together and form a gel-like structure. And the curds that form are then naturally separated from the liquid whey. And the curds basically then sink or float to the surface, depending on the size, of course, and density. And the liquid whey, which is mostly water, lactose, and some minerals, remains separate. After the curds are formed, they could then be cut and cooked, and then they're usually typically drained to remove any excess whey, which results in the cheese making process. So, why did I start with the definition of cheese when we're talking about ricotta? Well, if you can understand the basic definition of cheese, then you could understand the term ricotta. So, ricotta literally means recooked. But what is specifically recooked is the main question. Well, in this case, the liquid whey, remember the liquid excess that is separated from the curd in the cheese making process? So, the liquid whey is recooked in order to make the ricotta. And the first was when the cheese obviously was previously made. So, believe it or not, ricotta was known all the way back then in the times of the Greeks and Romans, but the oldest text that actually describes the production is in the Summa Lacticinorum, dating all the way back to 1477. So, anyway, back to nowadays. The leftover whey, which is, let's just say, a pale yellow liquid, is placed in stainless steel boilers and then gradually heated to a temperature of about 86 to 88 degrees Celsius or about 190 degrees Fahrenheit. And at that point, the whey begins to flocculate, which means that the flakes of the ricotta start to rise to the top. So now the heating is stopped and everything, of course, rests for a few minutes. And then the ricotta is taken out and allowed to drain in containers. So on average, if we take into consideration about 100 kilograms or 220 pounds of milk, approximately 5 kilograms or about 11 pounds of ricotta is obtained after producing the cheese. So, of course, it also depends on the type of milk that's used. In fact, ricotta can be produced from cow, sheep, goat, or buffalo milk, dependent, of course, on the types of cheeses that are made at each specific dairy. And nowadays, real traditional ricotta, which in my experience is extremely difficult to find in the United States, has become a highly valued product for its properties as it's a digestible food with a low glycemic index, a reduced percentage of fats, and a low caloric content. Also, whey proteins, believe it or not, are high biological value proteins, meaning that they have a high content of essential amino acids similar to those found in egg whites. But again, I'm only talking about real ricotta made from liquid whey. So, why do I keep stressing quote unquote real ricotta? Well, because in supermarkets here, at least in my experience in the United States, it's very difficult to find. And in fact, I've only found ricotta quote unquote made with milk, which is totally different than the recooked liquid whey ricotta that we just discussed. I've also seen Italian sounding imitations that literally write on their container in Italian the words ricotta con latte, which means ricotta with milk, which in the traditional sense of the word ricotta doesn't make too much sense because, again, ricotta is made only with the remaining liquid whey from the cheese-making process. So anyway, as we wrap up today's very short episode, we talked about the fact that ricotta is not really considered a cheese, but more of a byproduct. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the stories of authentic Italian cuisine. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe to this podcast for more insights and interviews. Also, feel free to reach out with your thoughts or questions on our social media channels at Stop Italian Sounding or on our website, stopitasounding.com. Grazie a tutti e alla prossima.
Sentire Media.
Hey, podcast producers and show hosts. Do you want to join a podcast network that celebrates all things Italian? At Sentire Media, we understand the allure of Italy and its unique culture. Our devoted team of hosts and producers are all driven by their shared passion for Italy. And we work tirelessly to create the best lifestyle podcasts and content that will whisk you away to the very heart of Italy. With us, you can savor the mouth-watering flavors, get lost in the stories from the past, break down the cultural barriers, and truly immerse yourself in the vibrant traditions of this intoxicating country. If you have a great podcast idea or are already in production and would like to join Sentire Media, head over to sentiremedia.com, that's SENTIRE media.com, and find out how to submit your show.